The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the soft hum of the colony ship's engines. Commander J. Park stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the ship's trajectory through the silent void. Behind him, the last 5,000 humans in existence moved about their carefully organized living quarters. 3,000 years had passed since Earth's destruction. The memory burned like a constant flame in every survivor's heart. Generations had lived and died within the metal walls of this ship, each one carrying the weight of their lost homeworld. Young children played in controlled recreation areas, their parents watching with a mixture of hope and deep-seated pain. They knew nothing of the blue skies of Earth, the green forests, or the bustling cities that once defined human civilization. Their entire world was this ship, a floating tomb of memories and survival. Hana Kim, the ship's chief historian, carefully maintained the genetic archives. Rows of preserved DNA samples lined the walls of her private chamber, each one a testament to the diversity of human life that once existed. She would often tell the younger generation's stories of Earth, passed down through careful oral traditions and preserved historical records. The ship's design was a marvel of engineering and survival. Multiple levels contained hydroponics gardens, advanced recycling systems, and living quarters that could adapt to the changing needs of the population. Every inch of space was calculated, every resource meticulously managed. Wu Li, the chief technological officer, spent most of his time in the engineering sections. His team continually modified and improved the ship's systems, ensuring their survival against the unknown dangers of deep space. They had developed technologies that allowed them to remain undetected, to blend into the background of the vast galactic landscape. Commander Park knew their mission was more than survival. It was about revenge. The Galactic Council had not just destroyed Earth. They had attempted to erase humanity from existence. Every person on this ship understood this fundamental truth. It was whispered in conversations, taught to children, burned into their collective consciousness. The younger generations trained constantly. Military preparation was integrated into every aspect of their education. Children learned advanced combat techniques alongside mathematics and history. They understood that their survival depended on being prepared, on being stronger than those who had tried to destroy them. In the ship's central chamber, a massive holographic memorial displayed the last known images of Earth, destroyed landscapes, burning cities, the final moments of a civilization captured in haunting detail. It served as a constant reminder of what was lost and what needed to be avenged. Genetic engineering had become crucial to their survival. Each generation was carefully designed to be stronger, more adaptable, more intelligent than the last. The humans on this ship were not the same humans who had once populated Earth. They were something different, a species forged in survival, tempered by loss, driven by an unbreakable spirit of revenge. Communication with the outside galaxy was minimal and carefully controlled. Stealth was their primary weapon. They moved like shadows, collecting information, preparing for the moment when they would strike back against the Galactic Council. Commander Park walked through the living quarters, observing his people. Children trained in simulated combat environments. Scientists worked on advanced technological systems. Historians preserved their knowledge. Every person had a purpose. Every action was calculated. As he reached the observation deck, he looked out into the infinite blackness. Somewhere out there, the civilizations that had destroyed Earth continued their existence, unaware of the storm that was slowly gathering strength. The humans had become something more than they were before, a precise, calculated instrument of revenge. The ship continued its silent journey, a testament to human survival. No external sensors could detect them. No tracking systems could find them. They were ghosts, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. One day, they would return. One day, they would make the Galactic Council understand the true meaning of consequences. The soft hum of the engines continued, a rhythmic promise of future retribution. The first human operatives moved silently into alien societies, their genetic modifications allowing them to blend perfectly with local populations. Each agent carried a mission more complex than simple espionage. They were the eyes and ears of a civilization waiting to strike back. Hana Kim had personally trained these operatives. They were more than spies. They were living weapons of information and strategic planning. Some worked as low-level administrators in massive alien bureaucracies, others as technical support in communication networks, and a few as maintenance workers in critical infrastructure facilities. On a distant mining colony, a human operative named Sung worked as a maintenance technician. His daily routine seemed mundane, repairing communication systems, checking power networks, and performing routine maintenance. But every movement was calculated, every interaction a potential source of critical information. The communication networks were their primary target. Alien civilizations relied on complex interconnected systems that seemed impenetrable. But the humans had developed technologies far beyond traditional hacking. They could slip through digital corridors like ghosts, collecting data without leaving a trace. In another sector, an operative named Min worked as a junior diplomatic assistant. Her position gave her access to high-level communication channels. She collected encrypted messages, political discussions, and strategic planning documents. Each piece of information was carefully transmitted back to the colony ship using quantum communication techniques that made detection impossible. The Galactic Council believed they had completely eliminated humanity. This was their greatest weakness. They had become complacent, believing their previous action had completely destroyed any potential human threat. They did not understand the resilience of the human spirit. Wu Li's technology team had developed artificial intelligence systems that could process and analyze massive amounts of data. These systems could identify patterns, predict potential strategic movements, and create complex simulation models of potential conflict scenarios. Every alien civilization had weaknesses. Some were political, internal conflicts that could be subtly manipulated. Others were technological, communication systems that could be disrupted. Some had environmental vulnerabilities that could be exploited. The human operatives were not just collecting information. They were creating complex networks of influence. A communication technician might subtly introduce a small code that would allow future infiltration. A diplomatic assistant might plant seeds of doubt in political relationships. On a remote research station, another operative named G worked as a scientific assistant. Her real mission was to understand the technological capabilities of the alien civilizations. She collected data on weapon systems, communication technologies, and defensive capabilities. The colony ship received constant streams of encrypted information. Each data packet was a potential weapon, each piece of intelligence a potential strategy for future revenge. The humans were patient. They understood that true revenge required careful planning. Commander J. Park reviewed the incoming intelligence daily. Complex holographic displays showed networks of information, potential strategic points, and simulation models of possible conflict scenarios. His team of analysts worked continuously, breaking down each piece of information. The alien civilizations continued their daily existence unaware of the silent threat growing within their own systems. The human operatives were like invisible seeds, planted deep within the fabric of galactic society. Some operatives had been in place for generations. They had established families, created complex social networks, and integrated themselves so deeply that detection was nearly impossible. They passed their mission from parent to child, a secret inheritance of revenge. The technology developed on the colony ship was beyond anything the Galactic Council could imagine. Quantum communication systems that could transmit information across vast distances without detection, genetic modification techniques that allowed perfect infiltration, artificial intelligence systems that could predict and manipulate complex social and political systems. Every day the humans gathered more information. Every moment brought them closer to their ultimate goal. The Galactic Council had made a critical mistake. They had underestimated the human capacity for survival, for patience, for revenge. Commander, Park looked at the holographic displays, a slight smile crossing his face. The pieces were slowly coming together. The moment of reckoning was approaching. The silent gathering of intelligence continued. a patient hunter waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The manipulation began slowly, like a quiet virus spreading through a complex system. Wu Li's team had developed psychological warfare techniques that were beyond traditional understanding. They didn't need weapons. Information was their primary tool. On a distant administrative planet, a human operative named Sung introduced subtle communication disruptions. Small glitches appeared in government networks. Nothing serious enough to cause immediate alarm, but consistent enough to create growing uncertainty. Political leaders started questioning their communication systems. Trust began to erode between different alien administrative departments. Each small disruption was carefully calculated to create maximum psychological impact with minimal detection risk. Commander J. Park watched the developing strategy from the colony ship. Holographic displays showed complex networks of influence, each connection representing a potential point of pressure. The humans were playing a game of galactic chess, and they were several moves ahead. In the diplomatic circles, operatives like Min began introducing carefully crafted information packets. A subtle rumor here, a strategically leaked document there. They created narratives that would make alien civilizations question their own leadership, their own systems of governance. The psychological warfare was precise. They didn't want to destroy immediately. They wanted to weaken, to create internal conflicts that would slowly break down the Galactic Council's structure from within. On a major communication hub, another operative named G manipulated data streams. Financial records showed slight discrepancies. Trade routes appeared less efficient. Economic systems began to show microscopic inefficiencies that would accumulate over time. Hana Kim's historical research team provided critical context. They understood exactly how to introduce information that would create maximum psychological pressure. Each piece of introduced data was like a carefully placed surgical tool, designed to create maximum internal tension. The alien civilizations didn't realize they were under attack. The manipulation was so subtle that it appeared like natural administrative challenges. A communication delay here, a bureaucratic confusion there. Nothing seemed directly threatening. Quantum communication. Systems on the colony ship processed millions of data points every second. Complex artificial intelligence systems analyzed potential outcomes, predicting how each small manipulation would create larger systemic changes. Some operatives had been in place for generations. They had created entire family networks within alien societies, establishing deep roots that allowed for long-term strategic influence. A child born in an administrative family could become a future point of strategic pressure. The humans were patient. They understood that true revenge wasn't about immediate destruction. It was about systematic dismantling. They wanted the Galactic Council to experience the same sense of helplessness that humanity had felt when Earth was destroyed. Communication networks began showing strange patterns. Political discussions became more heated. Economic reports started displaying unexplained inconsistencies. Trust began to erode between different administrative sections. Wu Li's technology team developed advanced algorithms that could predict and subtly influence complex social systems. They could introduce communication patterns that would create maximum psychological pressure with minimum direct intervention. On multiple planetary systems, human operatives worked simultaneously. Each was a small gear in a massive machine of revenge. They didn't need massive military force. They were using the Galactic Council's own systems against themselves. Commander Park reviewed the developing strategy. Complex holographic displays showed how each small manipulation would create larger systemic changes. They were breaking down the Galactic Council's structure piece by piece, without firing a single weapon. The manipulation continued, silent and precise. Like a cancer slowly consuming a complex organism, the human operatives worked continuously. Each day brought them closer to their ultimate goal of complete systemic breakdown. The aliens continued their daily existence, unaware that every communication, every administrative decision was being subtly influenced by the last survivors of humanity. The revenge was patient, calculated, and absolutely merciless. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the colony ship continued its silent journey. The ultimate weapon was not a massive battleship or a powerful weapon. It was information, strategy, and an unbreakable human spirit of survival. The silent manipulation continued, a quiet storm gathering strength. The first strike came without warning. Massive communication networks across multiple planetary systems suddenly went dark. Alien civilizations found themselves blind, disconnected, unable to communicate between their critical infrastructure systems. Commander J. Park watched from the colony ship as the first phase of their assault began. Years of careful preparation had led to this moment. Each operational team knew exactly what to do, where to strike, how to maximize damage with minimum direct engagement. Wu Li's technology teams had developed weapons beyond traditional understanding. They weren't physical weapons. They were digital, biological, and psychological assault systems that could destroy entire administrative structures without firing a single traditional weapon. On the primary communication hub of the Galactic Council's central administrative planet, human operatives triggered a series of cascading system failures. Power grids collapsed. Communication networks became scrambled. Critical infrastructure began to fail simultaneously. Hana Kim had spent decades planning this precise moment. Her intelligence teams had identified every critical weakness in the alien civilization systems. They knew exactly which communication lines to cut, which power systems to disrupt, which administrative networks to destroy. The first wave of attacks targeted communication and transportation systems. Massive space transit networks suddenly found their navigation systems compromised. Thousands of ships became stranded, unable to communicate or move. Supply lines collapsed within hours. Alien military systems discovered their weapon networks were compromised. Defensive technologies suddenly became useless. Communication between different military divisions became impossible. Confusion spread, faster than any physical weapon could travel. On multiple planetary systems, human operatives triggered biological disruption protocols. Carefully designed genetic agents introduced subtle mutations in critical alien populations. These weren't destructive immediately. They were designed to create long-term systemic challenges. Commander Park understood that total destruction wasn't the goal. They wanted the Galactic Council to experience complete systematic failure. They wanted them to feel the same helplessness that humanity had felt when Earth was destroyed. Quantum communication systems on the colony ship processed the incoming data. Each successful strike was another step toward complete revenge. The humans had become something more than a surviving species. They were a precise instrument of calculated destruction. The attack was multidimensional. Digital systems failed. Biological systems became compromised. Political structures began to collapse. Communication networks disappeared. Transportation systems became useless. Economic structures started to crumble. Alien leadership found themselves unable to communicate, unable to understand what was happening. Their most advanced technologies became useless. Their complex administrative systems collapsed from within without a single direct physical attack. Sung and other operatives had positioned themselves in critical administrative positions. They ensured that recovery would be impossible. Every system they touched became compromised. Every potential solution was already anticipated and blocked. The humans had studied their enemy for generations. They knew exactly how to create maximum damage with minimum direct engagement. Each strike was calculated, each system failure a precise surgical intervention. Massive planetary defense systems discovered their technologies were completely useless. Weapon networks became scrambled. Communication between different defensive divisions became impossible. The aliens found themselves completely vulnerable. Commander Park watched the holographic displays, seeing how each small intervention created massive systematic failures. They weren't just attacking. They were systematically dismantling an entire galactic administrative structure. The colony ship remained hidden, a silent observer of the complete systematic collapse. Generations of preparation had led to this moment. The last survivors of humanity were delivering their ultimate revenge, not through massive destruction, but through complete systemic failure. Alien civilizations began to realize something was wrong. But by the time they understood the scale of the attack, it was already too late. The humans had anticipated every possible response, every potential defensive mechanism. In the vast darkness of space, the last survivors of humanity watched their revenge unfold, precise, calculated, absolutely merciless. The assault continued, a silent storm of complete systematic destruction. The dust of the fallen Galactic Council settled slowly. Commander J. Park stood on the observation deck of the colony ship, watching as human operatives began their reconstruction efforts. They had not just destroyed, they were now prepared to rebuild. Hana Kim's historical preservation teams moved quickly. They collected critical information from the collapsed alien systems, ensuring that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. Every piece of data was a potential lesson, every fallen system a chance to create something better. The first step was establishing communication networks. Human technology, developed over generations of careful preparation, began to replace the old systems. These were not just communication networks. They were advanced systems that prioritized transparency, cooperation, and mutual understanding. Wu Li's technology teams began implementing new governance protocols. They didn't want to become the oppressors they had fought against. Every system was designed with multiple safeguards, with checks and balances that would prevent any single group from gaining absolute power. On multiple planetary systems, human operatives began the careful process of stabilization. They weren't conquerors, they were rebuilders. Each planet received carefully designed support systems. Medical technologies were shared. Educational resources were distributed. The surviving alien populations were not treated as enemies. They were treated as potential partners in a new galactic structure. Rehabilitation programs were established. Communication channels were opened. The humans showed a level of compassion that was unexpected. Commander Park understood that true revenge was not about destruction. It was about creating a better system. They would show the galaxy what humanity could truly be. Not a species of conquerors, but a species of builders and healers. Genetic preservation teams began working on restoring damaged populations. Advanced medical technologies developed during their years in exile were now used to help the very civilizations that had once tried to destroy them. Healing became their primary mission. The new galactic governance structure was unlike anything that had existed before. It was not a council of powerful civilizations, but a collaborative network. Every species had a voice. Every population had representation. Transparency became the primary principle. Sung and other operatives who had spent generations infiltrating alien societies now became critical administrators in the new system. They understood the complexities of different cultures, the nuanced challenges of galactic cooperation. Educational systems were completely redesigned. History became a critical subject, not just the history of individual species, but the collective history of galactic civilization. The destruction of Earth was taught as a critical lesson about the dangers of oppression and fear. Technology sharing became a fundamental principle of the new galactic structure. No single species would be allowed to develop technologies that could threaten others. Collaborative research became the new standard of scientific progress. Commander Park watched as the first joint planetary councils were established. Humans worked alongside representatives from different alien species. They were not rulers. They were facilitators, ensuring that every voice was heard, every perspective considered. The colony ship, which had been their home for generations, was transformed. Part museum, part research center, part memorial, it became a symbol of survival, of resilience, of the human capacity to rebuild after complete destruction. Key Choi's historical documentation teams worked continuously. They ensured that the memory of Earth's destruction would never be forgotten. But they also documented the process of rebuilding, of healing, of creating something new from the ashes of the old system. Economic systems were redesigned to prioritize cooperation over competition. Resources were shared. Technologies were distributed. The concept of scarcity, which had driven so many conflicts, was systematically challenged and reimagined. The humans had become something more than they were before. They were not just survivors. They were architects of a new galactic civilization. Their revenge was complete, but it was a revenge defined by creation, not destruction. As the first Joint Planetary Council was established, Commander Park looked out at the vast expanse of space. The memory of Earth was preserved, but a new future was being created, a future of cooperation, of mutual understanding, of hope. The reconstruction continued, a testament to the human spirit of survival, of rebuilding, of transformation.